Thank you so much. So thirsty. Oh God, what's that? That's not fresh. That is definitely not fresh. It's not, I'm telling you. What did I say to you? I only want the fresh blood of virgins. This is definitely not. No, you've made it now. No, you've made it. I'll drink it because you've made it. But please, going forward, can you remember? It needs to be as fresh as possible. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't grovel. Oh my God. Just get up. You're dismissed. You just cannot get the minions these days. Never employ goblins. They're absolutely useless. Anyway, I'm here to film a video, so I'm just gonna get on with that now, shall we? Hi everyone, Kelly Bear here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to have a slight change of pace because I'm going to be talking about witchy things rather than tarot things. Though one could argue that they go hand in hand. Not always, obviously, because not all witches are tarot readers and not all tarot readers are witches. But for me personally, they're very entwined because they came into my life around the same time. I started practicing them around the same time, so they're very enmeshed for me personally. So this is a VR to Ysha the activist witch, and it's the hashtag Snog marry hex. This is a really fun one. This has been out for about 5 or 6 months. That was when Ysha first put this hashtag out, and it has been on my to record to film list since then. But one of the books that I will be sharing with you was in the attic somewhere, in a box somewhere. Didn't know which box of books, but a box of books, and that became a barrier to be filming the video. But I finally went in there and found the book. I dug it out of the box, and I have it next to me right now, so I can make this video. Get around to it eventually. Procrastination. It's not my friend, but I know it very well. So yeah, Snog is going to be a book that is like just sort of the little easing into witchcraft. It's a little amuse-bouche. It's a little appetizer, something that you're going to, it's going to whet your whistle, but you wouldn't necessarily go back to again and again. The marry is, you know, it's a committed relationship. It's a book that I recommend that it would be useful to go back to, refer to again and again. It might build the foundation of a practice for you. And then the final book, Hex, is very self-explanatory. It's a book that I really just would not recommend. I have some physical books here next to me, but I don't have a physical book for the Hex. And you'll see why when I get to that bit. So let's get stuck in. Just have to have a little sip of the old tea. The book that was in, the aforementioned book that was in the attic was Fire Lyte, aka Don Martin. He's going by his real name now. Fire Lyte's The Dabbler's Guide to Witchcraft. This came out in 2021. I think I got it not long after that. I've been following Fire Lyte, aka Don Martin's work for a long time, and his podcasts and its various iterations. And yeah, I read it about, so at least, yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. So the details, the very specifics, are a little hazy. This is why I need to start having like a reading notes journal or something, so that when I do come back to stuff like this, I have the information, because my memory is so bad. I'm just going to read a little bit of the little front bit of the cover. I don't know what you would call this bit here. As witchcraft gains popularity, people are asking questions about how to foster an informed and meaningful practice. Each chapter of The Dabbler's Guide to Witchcraft asks you to think deeply and critically about different aspects of modern magical culture, all while teaching you how to ask good questions and seek good answers. Fire Lyte takes us on a thoughtful and compulsively readable journey, addressing topics such as the convergence of pop culture and witchcraft, how spirituality and science work together, the ethics of spiritual dabbling, exactly where crystals come from and what they do, and how to use what's already in your kitchen to make effective magic. So like, so far so good. So yeah, I remember really enjoying this book, and the reason I would say this is a good book to start off with before you start looking at spell books and grimoires and workbooks and all that stuff is because it's really laying a foundation and getting people to think more critically, especially when it comes to like witch talk and, you know, the sort of contemporary witchy sphere and sort of social media and influencers, and a lot of the misinformation, and you know, all sorts of stuff like anti-vax stuff, like all the things that are that get tied up with that, and like new age stuff. It's really helpful to have a source that is you know, encouraging you and helping you to think critically, to search out good sources, to think about why you want to practice witchcraft, which is part of this book as well. So I'll just go to the contents. And there are 5 main sections. So the first section is part 1, wait, so witches are real? And it just talks about pop culture and witchcraft. What can magic really do? Sort of disabusing people of that very sort of Hollywood idea of what a witch is or isn't, whether positive or negative, and talking about like when magic fails, and the rise of the political witch is covered, which is interesting and important, I think. Part 2 is the spiritual seeking with intention chapter, and so we've got why are you here? So it's like questioning why you want to practice witchcraft or get involved in spell crafting, spell casting, you know, setting your intention. There's a bit about ethics and can I make shit up, which I guess is like the idea, you know, what, you know, taking something that works for you and then making it your own thing. And then we've got part 3, spiritual community, which I think again is another important aspect to be covering. So we've got spotting a fraud, developing a filter, which I think is very important when it comes to having some discernment, you know, with especially with things like witch talk, and you do see that we have more experienced witches having to come in and correct misinformation that goes around on social media, which can sometimes actually genuinely be dangerous. So it's important to have those more experienced witches coming in and be like, no, but also it's important to teach new witches and just people in general media literacy and just critical thinking. And then we've got UPG, aka unique personal gnosis. No, unverified personal gnosis. What now? Because you know, unverified personal gnosis is valid, but how valid and how far can you take that? Part 4, which I really enjoyed, which is the tools of modern witchcraft. So we've got making magic, nature's magic, and then modern magical tools. And I really enjoyed the modern magical tools because, again, working with what you have, which I think is very important for new witches to know, that you don't have to go out and buy all the bells and whistles. How many of us wanted to go out and get all the things, or did go out and get all the things, and you know, don't end up using half of them because you don't know what resonates, or it's a bit overwhelming to suddenly have all of this stuff. But also for witches that are on you know, a tighter budget, or younger witches that might not have access to certain things, it's letting them know that you don't have to have all the bells and whistles. You can just work with what you've got, which is very sort of folk witchcrafty as well, you know, just working with what you have, which I love. But there's a lot of like, there's this fun bit about the modern broom, and you know, obviously you can use a besom, a broom, but you could also like use your vacuum cleaner or like a Swiffer or stuff like that for like cleaning and like cleansing, home cleansings and stuff like that, which I think is really fun, like taking it and updating it. And it makes me think of Hocus Pocus, where the sisters will like what's her name, is it Mary, who is it Mary? We've got Sarah, Winnie, Sarah, is it Mary? Why can I not remember? That's terrible. Who has the vacuum cleaner in the first one, and then the Roombas in the second one, which I just loved the update for that. So fun. So yeah, it sort of plays into that a bit, I guess. It's you know, if anyone knows Don Martin, he's got quite a big media presence, social media presence. I mean, he's very funny. He does a lot of skits. He does great. He gives good reels, TikTok. You know. Fun guy, and yeah, I just enjoy the way that he writes. And then what I really also enjoyed is there is some magic in here, folks. So the very last section, section 5, is the spell canvases, which is really cool. So it's actually I'll flip to the back just so I can show you. So this is the first spell canvas that's in the book, and it's the flying tea bag. So what Fire Lyte does is gives you like a little bit about it, what you'll need, and what you need to do, and then after that gives you some ideas of how you can use it. So they're called canvases because it's a bare bones structure of a spell, and then he's providing you possible uses, but he's asking you to take that framework and hang what you need or want on top of that. So he's already straight off the bat getting people to think a bit more, sort of making it more personal, and already starting to develop a more personal practice straight away, which I really, really love, and sort of rings through to the next thing that I'm going to be talking about as well. So my snog, my kiss, is the Dabbler's Guide to Witchcraft. I need to have another sip. I'm just going to pause so I can do that off camera, save the time, save you always having to watch me stop and drink tea. Anyway, so the next one, marry. Okay, so I kind of cheated for this. Not cheated. Let's say that this marriage is a polycule. It's an open marriage or something. There's like, I've got 2 recs is what I'm saying. I've got 2 recommendations, and it's because people, you know, one size doesn't fit all. I think this is very good. Just generally, people need to be thinking about the why of what why they want to do things and how they're going to go about it, and the information that they are getting, like what they're imbibing and where they're getting it from, the sources. I think that's just really valuable generally. But you know, for marry, it's a commitment, right? It's a big decision. So I have 2 recs because they have different approaches, but there's also, I guess, a similarity in some ways with these as well. So the first one, for anyone that has been watching me for any length of time, is probably going to know what I'm going to say. It's 6 Ways by Aidan Wachter. Now, Aidan does have 3 books out currently. I know he's working on another one, which I'm very excited about. And so this was his first book. Weaving Fate was his second one, and Changeling was his third. Incidentally, he says that he would recommend Changeling comes first, then 6 Ways, then Weaving Fate, if you were like coming completely new to his work. However, again, your mileage may vary, because Changeling goes through a bunch of different virtues or qualities of what makes a witch, and it has journal prompts and like practices to try out, which is really, really great. But if you're kind of impatient and you don't want to do all of the like all the little exercises and bits and bobs, it's a bit more chunky than this one. Not a huge amount more, but a bit thicker than this one. Is it a bit thicker than this one? Yeah, I remember it being a bit thicker than this one. I'm just looking down at my copy just there. If you want to just like jump in and you want like a bare bones framework for starting a magical practice, look at the this book is very wrecked. It's like the cover is creased. There's like a big, you can't see in the light, the cover's got a big bend in it, and it's been very well loved. It's dog-eared, pages are like folded over and written in on. I'm just trying to find where I've got like a, you know, like it's got little dog ears. Yeah, little dog ears, and it's highlighted. I'm trying to find where I've written notes. It is bits are highlighted and there's notes written in there. It's a well-loved book, and for good reason. So, and what I like about this and why I'm recommending it is, though it doesn't necessarily explicitly talk about this being a witchcraft approach, because when Aidan wrote this, he was still a bit uncomfortable about claiming the title of witch for himself. But after or during writing Changeling, that changed, and he started to sort of claim the word witch. And actually the book is literally about the qualities of what makes a witch and practicing witchcraft. So it sort of does work with this, and what I mean is that there's no specific tradition in this book. It's like bare bones practices for you to try out, take what works, leave the rest. You can really hit the ground running with this. You could work through this really quickly, maybe like bounce through it in a few weeks or a few months, or you could spend years working with it. I've had this since the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, can't quite remember, but I've been working with this book all that time. I go back to it again and again. I utilize the framework of the offerings that is in here. I've since also sort of rejigged it and reworded it slightly to make it my own, and that's the point, right? Things evolve and change, but you know, this is a book that I come back to again and again. It's a reference book. It's a book that I reread from beginning to end multiple times, or have read multiple times. It's, as you can see, it's well loved. Every little bit is like every page is highlighted in some way, and it's just, I've just found it so useful. It's such a foundational part of my practice, and what I find really interesting about this is I have been practicing magic, witchcraft, Wicca, whatever, of some flavour, you know, since I was a teenager, since the 90s. You know, there were times where I had big gaps. There was times where I didn't practice at all because I was going through a real sort of atheistic phase, or I was just, you know, life got in the way. But by the time I had gotten to this book, I had been sort of practicing pretty regularly for a few years at least, like consistently, but it was very haphazard. There was no tradition, there was no real structure to it. It was a bit all over the place. It was very all over the place, chaotic, but not in a chaos magic kind of way. I felt it was very yeah, like it was very eclectic witch, but very, it didn't feel stable, it didn't feel grounding, and I feel like a magical witchcrafty practice should not only be elevating and uplifting, but it should also have a grounding quality to it. It should help you feel rooted. It should be something, for me it's a spiritual practice as well. There's a bit of overlap there. I know not all witches are spiritual, and not all spiritual magical pagans are witches. There's a lot of it's all very amorphous and grey and swirling, and you know, it's all enmeshed. But yeah, this really helped me I literally just tore everything away. I just tore down my entire practice as it was, or what I had been doing, and I started from scratch. And I built it from the ground up again with this, and I've since brought in other things, so things that you would see in Brianna sources, making magic, for example, or from the Witch's Compass, or from stuff with Jason Miller. And it's interesting because leading up through 2017 and 2018, before this book was released, I listened to a lot of occult and witchy and esoteric and sort of high strangeness podcasts, and I would hear Aidan speaking about his talismanic jewelry that he used to make, and he was writing this book, or I remember when he said he'd started writing this book in podcasts that I was listening to, and I was listening to a lot of Jason Miller in podcasts as well at the time, and so I was actually really eagerly anticipating this book because I'd heard Aidan speaking about it on podcasts, and so I knew kind of what I was getting into. I was so excited for it, and it really delivered. And I haven't read Weaving Fate. I got it towards the end of last year, because it was a kind of work. There's 3 main practices in that that the book is sort of centered around, but it feels very heavy and intense, and I hadn't felt ready for that, but I'm hoping that this year is the year that I get stuck in with that. So this, if you want bare bones, it's quite a thin book. Don't be fooled, there's a lot in here. There is no fat on this book. There is no excess fat. It is, every single page is dripping with deliciousness. It's very lean, but there is a lot in here that you can work with, and you can really build a framework to start working off of. Anyway, I've waxed lyrical about this because I just love it so much. I love it so much. It's not hero worship. I don't put Aidan on a pedestal. He is very much a human, and I just really jive with his approach, and I really like listening to him speak. And he's a really cool guy. With some of the little interactions I've had with him on social media have been very pleasant. Seems like a cool dude. So my second recommendation for Mary, the other partner in this relationship, I'm recommending, because it's a different approach, and also it feels a lot sort of younger, and I'm aware that, you know, a 16-year-old might not necessarily jive with this. I mean, there's a lot of like song title and lyric jokes from like the 70s, 80s and 90s in this. Like I spotted a bunch of them. There's like Blue Oyster Cult and the Sisters of Mercy like referenced in here, like little hidden Easter eggs. You know, a 16-year-old is very unlikely to like even spot those types of things. So this might be just, I'm coming from a certain age group. I'm not saying that 16-year-olds won't get on with this, but what I mean is, when I was 16, I don't know if this was my speed. My first witchy book, I believe, is Teen Witch was Teen Witch by Silver Ravenwolf, or Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham. I do think it was Silver Ravenwolf, very closely followed by Scott Cunningham. But that was the, you know, I was a teenager, and that was, you know, being I was the demographic that was aimed at, basically. And I'm not saying that this is just a teen book, I don't think it is, but what I mean is it's very good for teens and through all age groups, I would say, because I enjoyed this as well, and I'm a middle-aged woman, and you're like, get on with it. Okay, I will. And it's Rebel Witch by Kellyanne Maddox. This is a chunkier book, you know. This, I would also say, is good for people who are looking for more of a workbook, or are also looking, who are really into, like, want a workbook and or are really into journaling, or just really, maybe you've read something like this and you really just want to, straight off the bat, want to develop a very, very personal practice without, you're not interested in traditional witchcraft, you're not interested in Hellenic witchcraft, you're not interested in, you know, Wicca, you just want to do your own sort of solitary eclectic-y thing. This is for you. I would have, like, you know, I will forever be grateful for Teen Wolf, because Teen Witch, because I've made myself laugh. Because I watched that at Christmas for the first time in ages. Some of it's not aged well, unsurprisingly. Anyway, I'm distracting myself. I will forever be grateful to Teen Witch, because here I am. Would I have still been here? Maybe. I don't know. Would I be the witch I am today? I don't know. Maybe. But this, if I'd had this at 16, oh my goodness, it's so good, so good. So Kellyanne, I think we all know who Kellyanne Maddox is. She really doesn't need any introduction. She's the reason I got back into tarot and witchcraft in the first place, back in like 2012, 2013, after like a break from it for a few years. So we've got a really great, like, it really goes through everything. So Kellyanne talks about why this book exists and how to use it. We've got a bit about a chapter called Let's Begin, and it's like talking about, like, you know, what does it mean to be a witch, why be a witch. Again, we've got like the questioning the why, like why be a rebel witch, sort of bucking the status quo, challenges, coming out the broom closet or not, why witchcraft, making it your own, that kind of thing. We've got part 2, make it happen, talking about the calendar, the divine and non-physical beings, spirit allies, as Aidan Wachter would call them, spiritual hygiene, tools and the altar, that kind of thing, like the sort of record keeping, all that kind of part of it as well. Part 3, let's keep growing. You've got schedules and plans, ethics, shadow work, all really like juicy, useful stuff. Seeking help and solving your problems. So, you know, maybe sometimes you might need to seek medical help, or you might need to go see a therapist, or you might just need a professional of some kind. We've got troubleshooting, and then connecting with others. Maybe you want to like connect with people online, or you want to like build your own little coven, I don't know. So really, really cool. And then just a little bit about like going forth and rebelling, further reading, and an index. Love an index. And actually I just realized going through this, I just waxed lyrical about this book without actually showing you some of the sections. It's very much you know, you've got a lot of similar stuff in the sense that covering, you know, cleansing and clearing and grounding and centering. You've got things about offerings, as I mentioned before, meditation, trance work, breath work. So you've got this book here gives you little hang on, let me find a bit for you. We've got like things, you've got things that you can do, like activities or tasks or exercises, but then there's also a bit that has each section that has journaling, like questions you can ask yourself and like really dig into, which is great. Okay, I'm seeing if I can find a journaling. Here we go. So write it. So here we go. We've got write it and try it. Okay, so you've got almost like theory and practice. Or you could do practice and then digging into, you know, they can do it together, write it and then try it, or try it then write it, do it around the same time. I don't know, again, you do you is what Kellyanne says. You get exercises in this, the aforementioned exercises, raising power and magical voice, that kind of thing, things about the dead. And then you get like actual practices to try. So how to do petitions, there's stuff about making sigils, sigil magic, servitors, that kind of thing. And then also, you know, magicking for the long game, and also how to course correct. He calls it righting the ship or steering the ship. Where is it? Can I find it? The Ship in Practice, chapter 30, the ship in practice, which is, you know, trying to stay on course, you know, and constantly course correcting, and coming back and righting the ship with regards to your practice or your magical working, that kind of thing. It's a really thoughtful book. So I just realized this is a hot mess. I tried filming this yesterday and it didn't go well because I was so tired, and I'm not starting again. I'm 25 minutes in. But yeah, this is, I think they're both good. Kind of in similar and different ways. Both are very much take what works and leave the rest, make it your own. I do feel like this has a younger, like hipper kind of voice. This one's a bit more stripped back, but you know, one or t'other or both, either way. Anyway, that was a hot mess. I should have gone through the chapters of 6 Ways before going on to Rebel Witch, but I sort of hurried myself along because I'd just been going on about how much I loved it. But I like all the books that I have shared today. This is the one that is like the one that like is the foundation of my current practice. And then the Hex. Sorry, I'm just going to have a little sip. Which book would I hex? Okay, I don't have a specific book that I'm going to say. I'm just going to say AI generated books, full stop. Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. We thought we had a problem back when it was all just ghostwriters. Lisa Chamberlain, not a real person, for example. But like the AI stuff is so much more like sinister. Firstly, it's knocking off and ripping off and like doing knockoffs, making knockoffs of like actual authors that, you know, it's a real struggle out there as it is, and you've got these AI books taking that away from genuine actual authors who know their shit, which is just terrible. Matt Oren has had a terrible time in the past, or probably even currently, with there being AI generated knockoffs of like Psychic Witch, for example, and even like kind of knocking off the front cover, like doing a kind of copying. Like, it's just awful. And they just sort of reword slightly the wording, but it comes off as kind of gobbledygook. So it's also then not fair on the person buying the book, because they're not getting, you know, actual authentic information, whether it's based off of, you know, someone's tradition or unverified personal gnosis or what have you. It's still coming from a real person. With AI, it's a lot of the time it's gobbledygook, or it's just sort of, it's not, there's no soul to it. There's literally no soul to it. It's computer generated. And thirdly, it can be dangerous. And I am speaking, you know, very specifically, what comes to mind for me is books books about plant magic, herbs, plants, anything that people, it might tell people to ingest or put on their skin, or things that it might tell. I mean, we have a bad enough time with, you know, older books more so, but still some contemporary books telling people to like throw stuff in running bodies of water or bury things in the ground which are going to disrupt the ecosystem. Don't do that. Dispose of your spell working like remnants responsibly, right? Environmentally responsibly. But you know, you're going to get more of that in AI books. But yeah, I'm just really concerned about, you know, you've got enough misinformation going around on things like witch talk, where you've got actual people spouting nonsense and experienced witches coming in and being like, no, don't stick selenite up your hoo-ha. That's bad. Um, for example, you know, so when you've got like AI books telling you to, like, I don't know, drink datura tea, for example, not gonna end well. So it's a real problem. You know, you've got just bots, AI. It's just a hot mess. And again, this is why this book is important, because it's telling people that you need to be discerning and you need to be really looking at sources where you're getting your information from. It's important. We need to be savvy. We need to be savvy to the misinformation, and the fear mongering as well. I'm not fear mongering, but people will fear monger. I'm thinking specifically again about like anti-vaxxers, which is why we have illnesses which had nigh on disappeared making a comeback and literally killing people. I don't know. Anyway, so that's that. That's my my Snog Marry Hex. What do you think? Do you enjoy my recommendation? Sorry, it got very rambly in the middle there with the two, and a bit messed up with the two Mary books. But what would your recommendations be? Do you agree with me? Have you read these books? Worked with these books? What were your thoughts on them? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. I love chatting with you all. So yeah, thank you so much to Ysha for creating this tag. Even though this is a very late response, it's not. I guess it's not a time sensitive tag. It's not a seasonal tag, for example, so it should be okay, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing this. I think it's fun, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch and or listen to me ramble. And I hope wherever you are watching this, you are safe and you are well, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.